You know how you have to have a credit score? For many years, everything's based on good credit, right? If you don't have a good credit score, you can't get a good job or a job at all. If you don't have a good credit score, you can't get loans and mortgage and credit cards. If you don't have a good credit score, if you do get a loan or a mortgage or a credit card, you're paying extremely high APR and interest rates and all that stuff. Well, I'll tell you why. Because they know that eventually, just like China, it's going to go from a credit score to a social credit score. Same deal. But if you don't have a good number, you are not a good member of society. You don't deserve to have anything. You need to die. Or be locked up in a prison. Or be homeless in the street. I know I'm onto something because this little green dot turned on and they shut my video off again and it said no service. But I have bars. I got 5G and plenty of bars, and there's a tower right there. When I'm talking about something they don't want me talking about, they try to get me off and say, end your Facebook Live, end broadcast. But whatever. So, that's how you know. See, they put their foot in their mouth. Whenever they try to do this, when you're right, they call it disinformation, false information, fact checkers. They silence you right away. But by doing so, it just confirms that we're right. That we're onto something. That's why they got to block it. Again, moving right along. Maybe that's why so many people phone pop up. See, there it is. See, I told you. They watch and they keep freezing the internet purposely. They're going to keep doing this today because I have plenty of signal. I'm being censored. Okay, so let's explain. Again, we're going to keep trying. Because I'm one of the victims of this. I had really good credit before I went away to seminary. I had good credit because I paid everything on time. I had money at one point, whatever. And then I got out of debt. They want you out of debt. You get penalized. You get punished for not having debt, for living off grid. They want you up to your eyeballs in mortgages, debts, credit cards, whatever, to keep you so busy working 80 hours a week for them, for the elite to keep making money off this thing. Okay, they keep messing with my phone again. They keep silencing me. So again, like I was saying, they punish you because they want to keep you working all the time, so you stay away from God, so you're too tired to pray and worship and save your soul, to stay on the hamster wheel because you're making them money. You're working your butt off for the elite as a slave. You think you're getting paid and you're a free person, but you're not. Because that money is not really going to you. They give you money so you think you're an employee, not a slave, right? But then they get it all back. How? They own everything. They're all in cahoots. They charge you high interest of them. Anyway, let's try this again. So they keep you busy on the hamster wheel. You get a paycheck. They tax the crap out of it. You have very little left. It also goes to interest rates, mortgage payments, APR, all this stuff. Loans. So you never really own the money that they give you either. It's theirs. They give it to you, so you keep working thinking you're earning money, but you never get to earn or save anything. And then you give it all back anyway, because they just keep raising the prices on the products, raising interest rates, everything. They find ways to get it back. But if you keep playing their game, your credit goes up, so long as you keep paying things on time. You'll get a good credit score. It goes up to what, 800, 900, whatever, 800, I don't know. I've never gotten past 7. But here we go again. So let's try this for a 5th time. They're going to keep interrupting my broadcast to try to get me to stop saying this because I'm onto something. So again, pay attention. Now, nobody's going to watch my video because it keeps doing this, so they stop. I lose my followers. That's why they do that. They keep the pause going so that nobody wants to wait 5 minutes to come back. It's getting harder and harder to preach the truth to people now because we're being watched and monitored and silenced. So I had very good credit. Then I got out of debt, paid off all my debts, and I lived very poor within my means so I wouldn't have to. I didn't use credit cards or anything. If I didn't have cash, I didn't buy it. So again, they keep interrupting the broadcast. So I had perfect credit. I was able to get good jobs, but you can't get a good government job unless you have like 680 or higher. So you got to keep on their stupid hamster wheel. You got to play their slavery game. Otherwise, your credit score goes down, okay? If your credit score goes down, you can't get hired, you can't get good jobs. It is a social credit system, even in America, even though they don't call it that. They do it in China and other countries, but we are stupid. We don't realize that it's the same thing. Now, it's another way of control. So basically, I had good credit. Then I went into seminary. I sold off my home, all my stuff. I was poor. I got rid of my cars, my home, everything, and I went to school to be a priest. Okay? When I was there, in 6 months, my credit dropped to like 400 or 500. And I said, why? I had good credit. So when I came home and I needed to get a home and an apartment, I couldn't get an apartment, I couldn't get a car, I couldn't get a loan, I couldn't get a credit card. They said that my interest rates would be too high because my credit's so low. And I said, why is my credit low? It was 700 before. What happened? Well, if you don't use it, you lose it. What do you mean? It took me years to build my credit. Everything on time. Well, but if you don't stay in debt, if you don't keep taking loans out, if you don't keep paying credit card bills, because they want you to keep them in business, making them money. They want to keep taking your money. You're a slave, and you make them money. If you don't have debt, the elite can't keep making money off of you. They want you to stay in debt, so you keep having to work. So you don't have time for God or anything else. You're controlled. You're tired. You're a slave. They make money off of your debt, off of the interest. And if you don't pay, if you lose your job and you can't pay, what do? They take your house. They take your car. They take everything. They attach your wages. You will pay or you'll go to jail. So they do this to force you. And because you're afraid of going to jail and losing everything, you got to get 2 and 3 jobs. And you'll do whatever it takes to keep work. Well, how can you serve God and neighbor if you're a slave making the elite, the Satanists, the government money? You can't. You're too tired. So that's why Jesus said, blessed are the poor. God provides for us, because if you're not poor, you're going to be a slave to your money. You have to keep making more money to keep the money. You have to keep in debt. You have to keep your social credit score going. If you don't have a good credit score, you can't get more money. You can't get anything. You can't get a loan. Does it ever? Because it doesn't make sense. If I'm rich, if I was a millionaire, I would have zero credit, zero interest. I'd have perfect credit and zero interest. But when I'm poor, my credit is bad, and I can't get good credit unless I get into debt. And then they give me 30 to 40, 50% interest rates. So I got to pay 3 times. So if I buy something for $3, it ends up costing me $30. But a rich person could buy it for $3 and they don't have to, it only costs them $3. It's not fair. It is designed to keep the poor and the rich rich. The rich don't pay taxes, we do. The rich don't have to pay interest rates, we do. They don't have to pay high APR, annual percentage rates on their credit cards. They get good credit. There's no way. The devil designed this to keep, especially Christians, in poverty. So, because a Christian in poverty cannot rise to power. They can't get a good job in government and cause trouble for the government. They don't want you in high position. You can't go to college and get a good education. You can't they keep us down. It's all about money and control. So I'm telling you, don't fall for it. Eventually, they said that the plan is that you will own nothing and you will like it. The government wants us all slaves like in Egypt. So they're going to put a mark of the beast in you. They're going to go cashless society, and then they're going to put a microchip in you. And once they do that, you belong to them and you lose your eternal soul. Jesus said, if you take that mark to save your life, to save your job, to save your home, you will lose your soul. You'll go to hell. They're scaring you. They're trying to make you desperate. So they keep raising prices on food and on rent, on everything. So you have to work harder and harder and harder. And the more you work, the less time you have for family, the less time you have to pray, the less time you have for God, so you lose your soul, the less time you have to be able to help your neighbor. You don't have time to minister. See, a lot of Christians like me, we can't evangelize and preach because we have to work so much that we don't have enough time to preach and evangelize to save souls. Asher, I know you're listening to my video, brother. Thank you, but you're interrupting the video. I'm preaching. I'm making a video that people are going to watch later. This is what I do. This is my ministry. I'm making a Facebook Live that people will watch later on. And some people are watching it now. And I have people here listening as well. I'm doing church. This is my church. This is my ministry. So I don't know why you're asking who am I talking to. I'm talking to people who watch my video. And you keep messaging me. But anyway, listen to what I'm saying and you'll understand. I make a lot of videos every day because the Lord gives me revelation and opens my eyes to things, and I have to tell people what's going on. They should know this already, and most people do. However, it doesn't change anything. And I'm telling you right now, people, there are 8 billion of us humans, and there's only a handful of these elites that work for the devil running our governments. If all 8 billion decided to have a civil war and mutiny, and we can get rid of them and take back the planet. But you won't do it because you're afraid. Okay? They're using fear tactics. But we outnumber them billions to 1. So what are you doing? It's getting to that point. So and another thing I got to say, and I'm not encouraging this because it's a sin to steal, but I was getting very angry when I watched these videos, and I see it on the news. You get 20, 30 black people, African Americans, and they all put on masks and hoods, and they storm into a store or a mall, and they just go on a stealing rampage, stealing whatever they can, throwing it into bags, and there's so many of them, there's an army of them, that they get away with it. Now, you and I would get arrested. You and I have to pay top dollar for everything. We can't even afford it. These people know better. I just realized today, these black groups, they're right. They're a little misguided, but when they say the man is keeping them down, it is. But it's not the white man. No, it's these Satanists, the elite, are keeping you down. And I'm starting to realize, you know what? Let them steal. Let them loot. I don't care anymore because you know what? I can't afford to buy this stuff anyway, and I'm not going to be jealous that they're getting it for free. But they can't get jobs. And you know what? I think they're onto something. I think that they're realizing that, listen, the way things are, these are Satanists keeping everybody enslaved and not allowing people to have clothing and food and stuff, which we are due in God's economy. We are to take care of each other. We are our brother's keeper. We are all allowed to have food and water and land and a place to live. This is how God set the world up. But Satan has hijacked the planet. He has made it a slavery. He's turned the entire planet into Egypt. And just to make sure that you know this, he put the pyramid on the back of the almighty dollar. So you are reminded every day that this is a giant pyramid scheme and they are at the top and you and I are the slaves. It's not changed in 6,000 years. We went right back into bondage again. But they were clever. They say, oh, well, if we pay the people, they won't know they're slaves. They'll be employees working for a wage. But then they came up with taxes to take the money back. And then interest rates and APRs and all this stuff. And did you ever notice that the only people that don't have to pay taxes are the rich? And they don't have to worry about their credit score because they're rich. And they don't have to pay high interest rates because they have good credit. But if you have bad credit because you're poor, you have to pay 3 times the amount on everything when you already don't have enough to buy what you already have. Does that make any sense? If I can't afford a $3 meal at McDonald's, actually no, now it's $24 to get a meal. $24 it cost me to get a meal at McDonald's for Don and I. It used to be 69 cents a hamburger. And they're feeding us people on top of it. It's disgusting. You can't even afford fast food anymore. But the rich can, and the rich don't eat that stuff. Because they don't need to. Because they get the best of everything. Do you see how this is designed? To keep the rich rich and the poor poor, and to make the middle class, who's supporting it all, poor, so that what we have goes to the rich. And then guess what? We're all onto it now. We're woke now. So now the final phase, the death blow. Digital currency. Digital currency. The rich will keep their money because they're already elite, and the rest of you, you'll own nothing and love it. You will be our slaves, and we'll put a mark of the beast in your hand, without which you will not buy, sell, trade. You might as well just put a tag on my ear like cattle, because that's what it is. It's a Satan tag saying you belong to me now. And we've already belonged to him this whole time. We've been living this whole time. Now do you understand the Beatitudes? Now do you understand why Jesus said death is better to die? To die for Christ is gain. You will envy the dead. It is better to be poor. Blessed are the poor. Because the poor take care of one another. They get it. The poor value things more. The poor are provided for by God. The poor are free to serve God and serve neighbor and save their soul. The rich are already consumed by their money and being their elite status and enjoying their power and money and sin, that Jesus said it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a sewing needle than a rich person to enter the kingdom for that reason. They're already 2 feet in the grave, 2 feet in hell already. They just don't realize it. The middle class, trying to keep up, trying to be rich because otherwise you have to. You have to. The houses are so expensive, the rent, the mortgages, the APRs, the interest rates. What did the Bible say? If you loan someone money, do not collect interest. What does the bank say? If we loan you money, not only are we going to charge you whatever interest we want, we're going to make you sign over your house and everything you own. And if you default, everything you have is ours. We're not going to just come after for the money. We're going to garnish your wages. We're going to take your house. We're going to take everything. It only benefits them. This whole planet, the whole financial banking system is one giant trap, a slave system. It is a casino. You're gambling. You need a loan or a mortgage, right, to get a home or this and that. And so you have to sign your life away. And if you default, get sick, lose your job, they take everything. They win, you lose. And if you keep playing their game and you're lucky enough to be healthy and young enough to stay on the hamster wheel and work 3 jobs a week, never get to see your wife or kids, or have a wife or kids anymore, population control, and you never get to go to heaven because you don't get to go to church and you don't get to pray and take care, love God and neighbor properly and do ministry because you're too busy trying to survive, working 80, 90 hours a week, okay, to keep what you've got, because the bills keep going up and the prices keep going up and the interest rate keeps going up, and they don't care if you drop dead. But in the meantime, you're working hard. And every day they're making you a slave. You picked this much cotton, now I want 40 more pounds of cotton. And then you reach the 40, now, you're capable of 50. And they just keep upping the ante until you drop dead and they get another slave. They don't care. You are keeping the elite rich. They own everything. The Freemasons own every business, every store, every product, everything. And they're all one giant family of the devil. They're all one government system. You and I are just keeping the wheels going, keeping them at the top of the pyramid. We're building the bricks. We're doing all the work. And we're not even making any money. They won't let us have enough to save so that, God forbid, we become rich where we can relax. They don't want you to be able to go on vacation. First of all, because then you're not making the money. They want to keep you working. So the number one reason is so you don't come to God and serve God, so you end up in hell. And then the second reason is to keep making money for them. And then if you should be able to afford a vacation, do you have any idea how expensive vacations are? Thousands and thousands of dollars. Most people have to put it on credit cards. So now you're in more debt for a vacation or a wedding. Even if you want to get married, everything's hundreds of thousands of dollars. So now you're going to be paying that off with interest for the rest of your life. On top of your mortgage and your car payments, you will never own anything. And the minute you own it, it's already, the car craps out or gets repossessed or whatever, and now you got to get another one. Do you see how this works? So you know what? Again, I keep the theme of death is not so bad anymore. I am and family and friends. So long as they're with the Lord, they're safe. They're better than you and I right now. They're out of here. If they're with Jesus in heaven or in purgatory, getting ready to go to heaven, they are better than you and I because they already made it. You and I could still lose our soul.